Planning Commission meeting for March 26, 2014. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Lively,
Here.
Commissioner Lane, Commissioner Whitmer, Commissioner Tonelli,
Here.
Commissioner Grinley.
Here.
Commissioner Whitmer's excused. She's in Atlanta right now. Approval of minutes for our February 26th meeting. Any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Motion to approve.
I do.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. Public comments. Anyone in the audience want to comment on anything? Please come forward and state your name, please.
That's not
Hello, my name is Joe Comartin. I live at 247 East Atherton, and I'm here tonight to speak to you about a topic that I had submitted for consideration that was agendized for the February Planning Commission meeting, which focused on the 2009 zoning code update and the impact or changes that it had on the definition of accessory structures and the setbacks subjected to those and other buildings on a property. I had hoped to be here last month. I apologize, I had an unavoidable conflict, and I was hoping to be here to illustrate for you some of the impacts that I believe this change in the zoning code has had on the placement of the various sort of amenity structures that have been very popular for all residents in terms of both new construction and remodeled houses. I've been a resident of the town for 10 years. Over that period, I've built 7 homes, designed and built 7 homes here in Atherton, and 3 of which have been in the time since the zoning code update. I've noticed that in practice, when trying to locate certain structures closer, or excuse me, further than the 8-foot minimum setback requirement, there are a few sort of practical limitations that I don't think are of any public benefit. For example, a fire pit needs to be more than 8 feet from a seat bench wall that might very well, want to be closer to that where you might enjoy the warmth. Or a barbecue might want to be in closer proximity to an actual residence or pool house structure where it can be most optimally used. So there are a few things just in the process of going through and designing and building homes that I've come across that I think could benefit from some further clarification inside the code. Certainly not an opportunity to do more coverages or anything like that, but just some further clarification that I think is worthy of your consideration. I know this isn't the proper opportunity to go into the details of that, but I will be raising this issue with the development roundtable meeting that will be happening in a couple of weeks, and hope to rally some support and convene with that group of sort of Atherton stakeholders that can help to further identify some of the sort of nuances of the existing code that could be improved, I think, for the public benefit, and I hope to have an opportunity to present that to you in next month's Planning Commission meeting.
As you saw by our minutes, we decided not to do anything and leave the codes the way they are.
I did see that
at the moment.
And I hope that I will have the opportunity to come in front of you again and further illustrate some of the topics that I've enumerated tonight and change for more.
Very good. You're perfectly welcome to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in public comments that's comment on anything that's not on the agenda? Being none, we'll move along. New business? Anything? None? Commissioners' reports. Yeah, I've got a couple. The council at its meeting last week on Wednesday approved the town general plan proposal as prepared by HMC.
Accepted.
Pardon me?
They accepted?
Accepted.
Not
yeah,
approved?
Accepted, not approved, accepted is right. As prepared by HMC and with the help of the Community Center Advisory Committee. There were 4 points: approve, accept the plan as presented, accept and authorize the city attorney to go forward, the planning department to go forward with the EIR for the whole project, and also get started on a RFP for selection of an architect, and fourth, extend the CCAC to go through the design process. So at least the plan is that far along and moving forward. The total proposed cost for both the library and the new administration / police building is something in the neighborhood of $32 million, of which 9.2, I believe, was for the library and its grounds, and 21.8 or thereabouts for the Civic Center itself and its grounds. It's been posted several places, but it's underway. The campaign to raise the private funds will get underway very shortly, with the hope that those people in town can come forward and donate around 20 to 25 million to complete the process. The second item is the rail committee met a week ago Tuesday and got started on comments to reply to Caltrain's EIR for electrification. There is very substantial damage to trees along the right-of-way, and so the reply has to be in within 60 days, which is somewhere in the middle of, or the end of May, about that time. And if you don't reply properly, you have no alternative at a later time to do anything from a legal standpoint. So it's within 60 days, right?
I think that's right.
That concludes my reports. Anyone else? Okay. Staff reports?
Nothing to add.
Okay. So, item 7 is public hearing, conditional use permit, 190 Park Lane, conditional use permit to allow construction of a new building, and alterations and additions to existing buildings at the Menlo Circus Club. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The applicant, Menlo Circus Club, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new building as well as additions and alterations to some existing buildings on their property. The Menlo Circus Club is located at 190 Park Lane, and the entire property is just under 30 acres, 29.26 acres in area. The property is zoned POS, which is your Park and Open Space zoning district. And within that zoning district, you have, it's a little different than the single-family zoning district. Instead of floor area, it talks about lot coverage. And then all buildings are considered to be main buildings, so there's no separate accessory structure setbacks. And so the setbacks, though, would be 60 feet front and rear, 50-foot side yard. The building height is 34 feet, and the lot coverage is 20%. Country clubs are considered conditional uses in that zoning district, and so any significant improvements to the property we would bring forward as a conditional use permit request. So the existing building coverage at the Circus Club is a little over 74,000 square feet, or 5.8% of the lot, and the applicant proposes to add a total of 5,833 square feet for a total building coverage of 6.3% of the lot, well within the 20% allowed under the code. The existing clubhouse building, they would add about 1,600 square feet, and that would be for a new grill area, kind of an extension of their dining facilities, and it would also have a small covered patio space. The fitness facility, they're proposing to add about 4,700 square feet, and that would be to expand for a new group exercise and enlarge the exercise room. They also propose to demolish the existing pool building, and that would be replaced, keeping the equipment inside the building still, but then also having some more space for locker rooms, recreation room, staff, and office room. They also propose to replace the existing pool with 2 pools. And they've submitted an arborist report that was included in your packet. No heritage-sized trees would be removed as a part of this project. Some smaller trees would be removed either due to the proximity to the building or due to the location, due to the condition or the location. And Kevin Kilty did make a site inspection, review the arborist report, and he doesn't feel there's going to be any impact to heritage trees, so he's supportive of that. In the conditional use permit, based on some comments from Commissioner Lively, we've added 2 suggested additional conditions, and I have reviewed those with the applicant. And that is condition 2. It is a code requirement to submit a construction, parking, and operation plan, but just be real clear about it here in the permit. And that plan would be reviewed by the building official. It needs to include kind of the work staging area where they're going to put the equipment. And then also make sure the haul route minimizes any impact to residential neighborhoods. Property is surrounded by homes, as you know. And then the third, condition number 3 would be the pool lighting limited to the minimum requirements under the building code. There are some safety requirements that they do need to have some pool lighting, and that the pool lighting on the deck level be low-level lighting. So I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and the applicant also has a presentation including the plans that he'd like to review with you.
Any questions for Lisa? Anyone?
Sure. Go.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Jim Sinceri, I'm the architect for the Menlo Circus Club. Just going to show you briefly, I think Lisa's covered everything, but I'll show you briefly what we're going to do in case you haven't been to the property yourself. This is the main clubhouse. This is the existing plan, and this is the proposed plan, so I'll go back and forth for a second. On the main clubhouse is right here, the parking lot, the polo field, the tennis courts. You can see we're going to make a very small addition to the main clubhouse, this new grill right here in that area. It's about 1,600 square feet with some new covered area. A small addition, it's meant for members. We're not trying to increase the membership of the club in any way. This is the fitness facility. It's kind of outlined as building B in your package. The fitness area, the workout room is quite small. It was built some time ago, so we're adding more workout space on that building, and also incorporating, this is where the pool equipment is right now. We're gonna demolish that building. It's a shack, literally. We're gonna demolish that building and incorporate it into the pool building here. And this is the pool building, as we call it. It's mainly a kids changing room and a small rec room. We're gonna make that bigger, and that's gonna now incorporate the pool equipment and the laundry service inside that building. These are ancillary buildings where they're really more like barns than anything else, have been there for quite some time. This is a water storage tank, which will remain. We're well within the, well, we're within the 50-foot, we're not within the 50-foot side yard setback on this property line. Other than that, you can see that it's faint here, but this is the existing pool, and we're going to separate that into 2 pools. The pool was built back when Olympic size meant 33 yards, which is now considered nothing now. There's no such thing as a 33-yard pool anymore. So to have swimming a lane that's 25 yards, we're actually going to divide the pool into 2 pieces. We're going to have a 25-yard pool and then a separate, deeper diving pool. Make sense? It's not our intention to overlight the pool. We're not trying to make a statement out of the pool. It'll literally be code required minimum lighting around the pool just for safety. And the hours of the pool use won't change in any way. We are cutting down some small trees that are shown in the arborist report. They're not heritage size, and we're only doing it because it's right near this grill addition that we're adding in that part of the building. And I think I've covered everything. Any specific questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
In terms of the impact on traffic to the site based on the additional activity, what are you looking at in terms of that?
There's no, I don't see traffic changing, honestly, other than during construction, which we'll try and minimize, and we'll comply with all the ordinances for off-street parking for construction personnel and debris boxes and routes of trucks back to the state highways. We're trying to minimize the off-haul. We actually don't want to remove dirt from the site if we can. We want to try and balance the site. And as Lisa said, there's over 1 million acres or square feet of property here to try and distribute the soil that we're going to create. And it's actually very minimal because we have a fairly deep pool already and a fairly long pool that we're creating 2 pools. So we don't see the exported construction dirt to be quite that very big. And in terms of activity on the site, we're not increasing the membership. The use of the property won't change. It's really just to create another private space for the members on the site. A small informal grow room is really what we're creating, not a new banquet room or anything like
And
that.
I went out to the site again, I've been there a number of times, and the one aspect of the site that is not optimum to me is just the ingress and egress to the parking lot and the flow around the parking lot. We recently were at a big event recently, and it's a little tough to get in and out, and
Interesting.
yeah, and it just seems like when there's a queuing up of cars, and people have a problem sort of flowing through that parking lot, and then you got the valets running up and down the driveway to get outside, and then there's cars strewn along on the outside on the bigger events like they were the one we went to. So there just seemed like a little bit of an ingress-egress parking issue on the site or near the site. Now, like this event we went to was, I'm definitely awake, but it was clear that there wasn't enough parking on the site for the ability to fill the room. So the room was not overflowing, it was not unfire safe or anything like that, but there was not enough space for the cars on the site. And the valets were pulling the cars off the site on the side of the road to park their cars that they were valeting, which means that they were letting the people who were driving up there that probably needed shorter access or something, the spots, but it wasn't enough parking on the site, given the size of the site, to cover the activity that was at the site.
Interestingly enough, there is no parking requirement, maximum or minimum. There is no minimum requirement of parking on this site. It's a POS zoning district, and there is no parking standard.
I'm talking less about standard now than I am about accommodation and the spillover from the neighborhood, because what was going on there is that people were coming in and out of the parking spots, and people were driving up and down, and it was just tight, you know. And it was also spontaneously people jumping out in the middle of the lane. So it's just it seems to be inconvenient for the users, and it seems to be that's about the fourth or fifth time I've seen that activity like that. So that means that for whatever we're doing on the site is not quite covered by the parking that's available on the site. And it's part of the design of the usage to use the street for parking, which may or may not be optimal.
Okay, William, any comments?
Yeah, clarification. Christian did an excellent job yesterday with my colleague Phil and I went there. And I thought he explained it well, but then now looking at it, where you now have what the changing area is, a very small, you call it a shack. Not that description.
Oh, the pool equipment is in the shack. The changing area is in
Changing area,
is in a
sorry,
pool
changing
building.
area.
Yeah.
That now becomes one building.
Yes and no. There's a fitness building, and then there's the pool
That
building.
one,
Yes.
Yeah.
So the fitness building's getting bigger, but it will always be separate from the pool building.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you change clothes in the new plan?
If you're an adult, you probably go in the fitness building.
If you're a child?
If you're a child, there are children's changing locker
Show me
rooms.
over on the new
And in the new plan, it's in the same building, but the building's gotten bigger.
Now, it does where your right finger stick also have pool equipment in
Yes.
it? Chlorine is very dangerous.
Oh. Mhm.
And I wouldn't want my child changing their clothes in an area in which a highly toxic chemical is literally one sheetrock all the way.
We will go through the health department for all these changes, and we will comply with the building code. So the area will be very well vented, and there'll be separate air conditioning, separate ventilation systems between the pool equipment and the children's locker rooms. So I understand your concern, and we will address it.
That's an excellent comment, William. Chlorine gas is a killer.
It's a killer, it'll kill you very quickly. Second one was that neither Christian nor Phil and I could really figure out who has jurisdiction, if not both, over constructing and seeing the correct operation of the swimming pool/pools. Do you know the answer?
I think you're correct in both the building department here in Atherton and the health department, San Antonio County Health
So it's
Department.
both of us.
Both have codes that we will comply with, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's all.
Paul?
No.
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. On the pool and the pool demolition and reconstruction. That probably is gonna create the most debris in taking that apart, putting it back together again. Most haulage in and haulage out, concrete waste out, rebar out, and concrete trucks coming back in again. What have you thought about the haul route? Can you show us where that might be?
You know, I'm not prepared to answer that. That's really the contractor's purview. The closest major street is Valparaiso, and then I don't know if they'll try and get to 280 or to 101 from that point. So they'll either go east or west on Valparaiso.
Well, that's part of the COP that's in the condition, is to be sure that that's shown.
It will be.
When we were there, Christian said, well, we'll just go across the polo field. I'm not sure your membership is gonna be happy with that idea.
I don't
course
think
they
that's the
won't,
best
sure.
suggestion.
So you might reconsider that, but we need to know how it's gonna work and which streets you're going out of and so forth.
And I believe that's a restriction that will be put on us in order to get a building permit. Is that required at this stage? We could certainly supply one if that's what you like.
Yeah, the building, the town does not have a requirement to submit for haul routes. Some jurisdictions do, but it is a requirement that we've added in condition 2, that they submit that and it'll be reviewed by the building official.
A suggestion to you is you might talk to Sandy over at Sacred Heart, because they've done a lot of construction over there, and their haul routes, whatever they've done, has been quite successful.
Oh, excellent.
With a lack of problems from the neighbors. So you might talk with her.
Do you know her? Sandy Dubinsky.
I have not met her. I'm sure Christian knows her very well.
It's worth a call.
Yeah, great.
Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience want to comment on this issue?
Well, I have a couple of renderings if you want to see them. Not that that's, probably you don't want to see it, but I'll show you anyway.
But you did all that work, so
What's that?
you did all that work. so-
Yeah, that's right. Took me a while to clean it up. The building style, as you know, is Mediterranean, and our intent is not to make the style of the club any different. In fact, we preferred if it looked like we were never on the project. We wanted to make it look like it was always, our addition was always part of the existing project. So this is the existing clubhouse in the background, and this is the new addition that we're putting on. So this is the new grill room, and the pool would be to the left in this diagram. We're standing on the polo field looking at the building, if that makes any sense. So we'll match the clay tile of the roof, and we'll match the Mediterranean style of the architecture. And then this is the existing fitness facility. Again, the addition will look like it's always been there. It's really just coming towards the pool a little bit. And then this is the kids' changing room with the rec room right next to the pool. Okay. Thank you.
We were lucky, William and I were lucky enough to get a handout from Christian. It's our small version of that very same thing.
Yes.
And they're even better to look at than the monumental pile of drawings you gave us.
Oh, good. Yeah, the full-size sets are sometimes less convenient than you'd like them to be.
Okay, anyone else in the audience want to comment on this item? Hearing none, bring it back to the commission. Eric, we'll start with you.
Okay, in terms of the actual changes to the site that you're talking about from a construction standpoint, as long as we get the traffic flow in and out taken care of, I think that's good, and I like the design a lot. Good job. I know it's not part of the whole discussion, but that site does not handle the parking properly right now, and we should think about that now if we can. So I don't know how we could influence that, but it's something that it's an optimal time to look at. And it's such a desirable site, and it's such a desirable use that the community uses frequently. It just would be better if the parking were adequate. So just think through that. And I know it's added cost, but it's probably an investment too.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Eric as far as the parking issue is concerned, as long as he brought it up, not only just with the flow of traffic and the impact on the neighborhood, but I've been to a couple of events at the Circus Club where the overflow parking goes into the back dirt lot, and that can be hazardous from where you step, especially for the ladies, and especially at night for anybody.
Yeah.
And that would be, another one of the parking issues in addendum to what Eric just brought up. The project, to me, looks like it's fairly well thought out. I think William brings up a great point about the chlorine with the kids building. But as far as the additions to the site, they don't seem obtrusive or anything like that, and they seem in keeping with serving your members. Very impressed with the architecture. So I think it's been a fairly well thought out plan.
William?
I would like to add to the draft of the conditional use permit something with the following wording, that it complies with all health and safety codes concerning the close proximity of the children's changing room to chlorine and other pool sanitization operations. Please, please, please.
You want to give that to Lisa again?
I'll just hand you this and she can
Oh, thank you.
decipher my scribbling. I can't, but she can. I'll work with you later, don't worry.
That's your comment?
That's my comment, otherwise, tutti facci.
I have one, it has to do with membership. We've heard tonight again that there's no current plans to increase the membership. But this is, again, a private club and so forth. We've done the same thing with our private schools with conditional use permits where they're expanding their facilities. I just wonder if it would be worthwhile considering putting a cap on the membership at 10% over what they have right now, so at least we'd have a lid on it. But if they wanted to go more than that, they'd have to come back and ask us for lifting that ceiling. Any comment on that?
Are council and planner buzzing on this issue?
Probably. Yeah.
Because there may well be covered.
We are not prepared to discuss it, but we're less excited by that plan. We'd have to go back to the original, I don't know how far back this goes, but.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to find a lot of documentation in the files, given the age of this facility, but I'd like to go back and look and see, what restrictions were put in place, if there was any limits previously on the membership issue. Is there a need to cap the membership? I think we have to think about it a little bit more.
Well,
Talk to the applicant.
we've seen that come up twice now with different schools. They want to get up near it or over it and come back for a revision of the CUP.
Right, and specifically with the schools, it was tied to traffic impacts. So there was an impact that needed some mitigation, and that mitigation was to cap the enrollment or come up with the alternative traffic scenario.
Same thing might
So I think
happen
here we would need a reason to cap the enrollment.
Membership.
I think traffic would be a
Cap the
good one.
membership,
Traffic
but we don't have that
department.
information in front of us.
Yeah. The traffic issue it's got gnarly issues,
Well, along that same line, when we were over there Tuesday, this has nothing to do with Menlo Circus Club, but I'd like to have the staff take a look with Sandy Davinsky and find out what's going on Park Lane, because the cars were parked on both sides of the road over there, and they certainly weren't workman's cars. There wasn't a pickup truck in the bunch. Lots of nice cars, so there must be something else going on.
Monday was the same thing when I was there.
Roughly charge of this
Yeah.
meeting.
Monday around 4:35.
We're saying that.
Okay, with that, I have no further problems.
Phil, did you talk to Christian yesterday about membership, or?
Yeah, we did. We talked to him. He said there's no plans to increase the current.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what he said to me today too, that they're pretty committed to the 400 number. If there is any locally imposed restriction, he didn't seem to be aware of it, and neither am I. But they seem to be, fairly committed to that self-imposed number.
I hope we have a commitment by Menlo Circus Club that they will not be promoted. Any further comments? Is there a motion then?
I'll make the motion, you want me to draft, that we approve the draft conditional use permit as presented with the supplement of item 6, compliance with all health and safety regulations relative to chlorine and the children's changing room.
I'd second that.
All moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion is approved. Menlo Circus Club is approved. We have 10 days from the day to appeal these, so we all
Fight yourself.
on this. Right.
Thank you very much.
Next item is number 8. Special structures permit, 76 Ridgeview, special structures permit to allow retaining walls higher than 6 feet, and a special structures permit to allow a basement to extend beyond the footprint of the first floor in the main residence.
Thank you. The next item before you is a request for 2 special structures permits at 76 Ridgeview Drive.